Will she be changing diapers? Her mother went back to get the diapers. Thinking of this, I casually took out a pack of diapers from another dimension. I tossed the diapers to Cho Carol and handed the child over to you. Cho Carol was speechless. Then I turned and came to Uncle Yo. I asked him if he felt his body, if there were any strange changes. He didn't know that I was called Cho Carol. He injected me with a muscle relaxant. Now I feel weak all over. And the wound itches. This is a good thing. It means the wound is healing. At least I got some information now. Uncle Yo's supernatural ability does not provide immunity to the effects of drugs. Moreover, he is a power type. Later, I chatted with Uncle Yo for a while. Seeing that Sherry had not returned yet, Uncle Yo couldn't help but worry. Why is she taking so long to come back? Could she be in danger? I pretended to stand up nervously. It's very chaotic outside now. People are fighting between buildings. Oh no! Sherry may be in danger. I quickly called Cho Carol, as the children were already asleep. You take care of Uncle Yo. I'll go out and take a look. Immediately, I equipped myself with all my weapons. Notify all the neighbors in the homeowners group to gather at 1301 immediately. Discuss the distribution of supplies and the division of each building. First come, first served. At the same time, notify Su Hao that if he doesn't want to die, he should stay at home and don't move. Soon all the neighbors gathered in room 1301. The neighbors were getting more and more excited. They were all envisioning a bright and peaceful future days ahead. A group of people were saying one thing after another. We have managed to impress all the other buildings. From now on, each of us will be in charge of one building. People from other units will have to serve us. ZhangYi will continue to find supplies for us and ensure our safety. ZhangYi is really thoughtful. Little do they know that I have been eavesdropping at the door for a long time. A group of dying people. They have quite beautiful thoughts. I took out 2 grenades from another dimension and threw them into the room through the crack in the door. The room was filled with a sudden and rolling object. Before they could react, 2 enormous explosions resounded throughout the entire residential area. The flames instantly engulfed the entire room. More than a dozen people in the room were blown away in an instant. I swept the room as soon as I entered. Various severed limbs were scattered around the room. Only one survivor remained. He doesn't understand why we have been so loyal in following you. Why are you so heartless? I won't waste words with him either. I have cleaned everything up. Now only 5 people are alive in Building 25. The road of revenge has finally come to an end. There are no more obstacles in my heart. Suddenly, it feels like the world has become much quieter. Even my breathing has instantly become incredibly smooth. Next, I will take down that billion-dollar shelter. How powerful can Hulk Yo, who awakened his supernatural ability, really be? Beds made of steel. He created a deep pit with just one punch. I just took care of all the neighbors in the building. He walked into Uncle Yo's ward with a sad expression on his face. Uncle Yo, I have a piece of good news and a piece of bad news to tell you. The bad news is about Sister Sherry. She seems to have sensed what happened. What happened to Sherry? I punched the wall. Although I have taken care of those 2 treacherous traitors, there are still people among the remaining neighbors. Conspiring with other units, they attempted to seize my supplies and house. Sister Sherry was unintentionally drawn into it and brutally killed by those guys. Uncle Yo closed his eyes in pain. He fiercely punched the bed, creating a loud bang against the steel bed frame. He ended up creating a deep dent in the bed. I hurriedly comforted Uncle Yo. It's all my fault for not realizing the conspiracy of these beasts in time. But I have already resolved all of them. It is also considered revenge for Big Sister Sherry. I watched Uncle Yo punch out a big pit. It looks like his supernatural ability is strength-based. This complements my abilities perfectly. In the future, there will be tasks requiring physical strength, meat shield missions, and so on. I won't worry about finding someone capable. It seems I need to work harder to win over Uncle Yo. Uncle Yo clenches his fist. These damn guys. You've done so much for them. And they still repay kindness with enmity. It's really too much to bear. I sincerely said to Uncle Yo. I also bear responsibility for this matter. But I didn't expect them to be so insane. But you don't have to be so pessimistic. I have some good news to tell you. I'm going to help you find a young, beautiful, and technically skilled wife. After a moment of silence, Uncle Yo blushed and said slowly, I prefer someone a little more mature. Uncle Yo also quickly came to terms with it. After all, they were originally an odd couple. Being with her was purely for the sake of her body. But gradually, they developed feelings over time. Just at this moment, Joe Carroll burst in carrying the child. ZhangYi, Brother E. Uncle Yo, the child has been crying all the time. I really have no way out. The two stared at each other. In an instant, they were both confused. I then looked at the weapon in Joe Carroll's hand. Perhaps I'm just hungry. Joe Carroll's face reddened, and she said excitedly, I haven't given birth, so where would the breast milk come from? I looked at the baby in the swaddle. It seems I need to find a reliable orphanage to adopt this little one. Provide them with some living supplies. Shouldn't be a problem. After all, none of us have experience. Very soon. I packed up some supplies and carried the child. Headed towards Building 18. The entire community is incredibly quiet now. The neighbor from Building 18 watched me slowly approach. His eyes were filled with fear. Is he coming to kill us? I walked to the bottom of Building 18. I raised the gun in my hand and fired 2 shots into the air. Come down. It won't take long. Li Zhou dragged his thin body out. But he still held his head high and chest out. There seemed to be no trace of fear in his eyes. ZhangYi, why are you still looking for me? I carefully inspected this middle-aged man. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Li Zhou said lightly. I have long been indifferent to life and death. Now I just want to do my best. Protect the people in my building. He is the epitome of humanity in the post-apocalyptic world. Under his leadership, more than 60 people miraculously survived in Building 18. The deceased all died of freezing or other complications. Li Zhou is an idealist. It's also commendable that he has held on to his ideals until now. After resolving Sherry's issue, her daughter has become a problem for us. I am planning to entrust her to Li Zhou's harmonious home. I brought the child in front of Li Zhou. Li Zhou, who appears thin and weak, still stands tall and proud. Aren't you afraid of me? Li Zhou swallowed a mouthful of saliva. So what if you're afraid? But I don't think you're here to kill us. You didn't bring your neighbor with you. And you're even holding a child. Upon hearing this, I nodded. You are indeed a clever person. You figured out the purpose of my visit at a glance. There are so many people in your building. There should be a breastfeeding mother. A hint of excitement flashed in Li Zhou's eyes. He saw a chance of survival from my words. He quickly nodded repeatedly to give a predetermined answer. He knew that ZhangYi was asking for a favor from me. As a condition, his own building might be spared from harm. Next, I threw the backpack behind me on the ground. Inside are children's supplies and some food. I patted Li Zhou's shoulder. This child was brought here by me personally. If you don't take good care of him, you should be aware of the consequences. Li Zhou listened to the threatening words and quickly made promises. We will definitely take good care of the child. Then they called a woman to take the child away. At the same time, several men moved household supplies into the building in perfect harmony. I watched the harmonious and orderly scene with furrowed brows and asked Li Zhou, How many people are still in your building? Li Zhou, looking slightly proud, replied, There are 66 more people. What are your plans next? I won't provide any more food for you, I said. Li Zhou responded confidently, Where there's a will, there's a way. We have persevered until now. I firmly believe that there is always a solution to every problem. I pointed to the nearby blackened apartment building. There are many barbecues there. It should be enough for you to eat for a long time. He shook his head firmly. We will never take that step. That way. We will definitely choose to die with dignity, rather than live inhumanely. Listening to Li Zhou's sonorous words, I fell into contemplation. In this moment, I suddenly found myself in awe of the man before me. To be able to maintain one's true self in such difficult times is truly admirable. I smiled faintly and said honestly, You are the first person in the last days that I admire. Li Zhou took a long sigh. I am just doing my best. Compared to you, I am far behind. This is where the conversation ends. Li Zhou gathered up his courage and made an attempt. Before, you were able to provide food for 300 people. Now there are also nearly 300 survivors. You are fully capable of helping everyone to live well. I laughed and turned around, ready to leave. I am not a deity. Cannot save the common people. Even if I can save them temporarily, then they may not necessarily be grateful to me. I understand the principle of gratitude turns into resentment. Very well. In such an apocalyptic world, the only way is to protect oneself. I don't have such lofty ambitions and grand aspirations. I just want to live well, and then be with my beautiful sister Cho Carol, and have 10 or 8 children. Uncle Yo is still lying on the next bed. I am discussing the origin of life with Cho Carol in the kitchen. After all, the grudges and conflicts in the neighborhood have come to an end. At this moment, I feel incredibly relaxed. Just now, as I was leaving the child in Li Zhou's care, I threw a few bags of seeds to Li Zhou. There are more than a dozen crops such as corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, wheat, etc. This is an opportunity one give you. You can try growing grains to feed yourselves. In this apocalyptic scenario, self-reliance is the only long-term strategy in such a situation. So don't say I haven't helped you. I can give you these, just because I was a little touched by your approach. Let me see the remaining humanity's brilliance in the end times. Of course, you can also eat these seeds directly. How to deal with it is up to you. With that, he casually brushed his sleeve and left. Li Zhou and the neighbors were dumbfounded on the spot. Under this extreme cold end of the world, is there really a chance for these to grow? At this moment, a white-haired old man suddenly ran out. He is an academician of the College of Agriculture at ZhangYi University. Hurry up and collect these. If it grows, we can survive. Li Zhou picked up the seeds while looking suspiciously at Dr. Gu. Can we really grow in this kind of weather? Dr. Gu said with a trembling body and stuttering voice. It is possible. We have no other options. Even if there is only 1 in 1,000 chance. We must also give it a try. That is our only hope of survival, everyone said spontaneously. Upon hearing this, they all picked up the seeds, holding them close to their chests for fear of them freezing. After doing these things, I felt incredibly relieved. All grievances from past lives have come to an end. Cho Carol has just finished changing Uncle Yo's medicine. I told her to hurry up and make me something to eat. Cho Carol is getting ready to cook while putting on an apron. What are we having for dinner today? I sneak into the kitchen quietly. How about I eat you first? You guys don't seem to like the rest of the plot. I won't cut it anymore. Cho Carol worked tirelessly through the night. She was so exhausted that it was even difficult for her to get out of bed to cook. At this time, Su Hao sent a message, saying that Richest Prince has already been contacted. We can go at any time. I am not in a hurry. Su Hao, on the other hand, is very anxious. I received an injection from him yesterday. He didn't sleep well all night. I feel like I'm about to die. I asked Su Hao to come to my house for a detailed discussion. Soon, Su Hao has arrived at my doorstep, feeling the temperature of my home. It's like a beggar entering a place filled with a paradise of gold, silver, and jewels. Watch as I walk out of the room. Su Hao immediately knelt on the carpet, ready to report the details of his communication with the Richest Prince. I smiled faintly, signaling Su Hao to be quiet. Hand over your phone. I can check your chat records myself. Su Hao's face stiffened with horror. I looked at Su Hao with a playful expression and stretched out my hand directly. Are there some details that I can't see? Behave and hand over your phone. Otherwise, you're as good as dead today. I have ultimately decided to have a child with Cho Carol. After resolving the grudges in the neighborhood, I started an unashamed life with Cho Carol. Whether it's the sofa or the kitchen, they all bear the traces of our battles. After all, Uncle Yo is still lying in the house. We still have to take down the billion shelter of Richest Prince. After all, we heard from Su Hao. There are very distinctive male and female exclusive entertainment rooms there. I immediately called Su Hao to come and discuss a countermeasure. Su Hao is also prepared to report to me the details of the communication with Richest Prince. I said no need to bother. I'll look at your chat records myself. Su Hao was stunned. Their chat records with Richest Prince. There are a lot of content that ZhangYi absolutely cannot see. There are a lot of derogatory and insulting words inside. Su Hao looked bewildered and broke out in a cold sweat. I pulled out my gun and pointed it at his forehead. No tears until you see the coffin, right? Su Hao begged for mercy repeatedly. Let me make it clear first. I said a lot of bad things about you to reach Prince. But that was just to win his trust. Don't be mad when you see it. Handing over the phone with both hands, I took the phone and carefully looked through the chat history. So you guys have been in contact since half a month ago. I quickly browsed through the records. A contemptuous smirk slowly crept onto my face. No wonder Su Hao was so nervous. I playfully held the records in front of Su Hao's face. Su Hao swallowed nervously and hastily began to explain. I swear by the light. I insult you just to gain his trust. You have already injected me. If you were cheated to death, I will definitely die on my own. I have no reason to stand on his side. After reading the chat records, I don't have much feeling in my heart either. I could have guessed most of the content myself. But it seems that Su Hao did not reveal my firepower situation to Reach Prince. The focus of Reach Prince's attention. It's just enough supplies and a snowmobile. This should be Su Hao's little trick as a double agent. From the moment I started showing strength, Su Hao should have started betraying Reach Prince. He turned to join me. After I burned down a few buildings, Su Hao completely sided with me. I carefully considered for 2.5 minutes. Take advantage of this information gap to catch him off guard. There should be a chance to take down the shelter. Next, I threw my phone onto the table. Now you can tell me about the security situation of the shelter. Especially things like weapons and defense facilities. Not a single word less. Su Hao dare not withhold anything. Disclose all the details of the shelter he knows. The shelter uses aerospace materials. Can resist nuclear bomb attacks. It's almost impossible to break through head-on. But according to his understanding, the shelter does not have heavy weapons. It only has some jet devices for tear gas and hypnotic gas. There is a high-temperature flamethrower equipped at the entrance. I remember that Reach Prince demonstrated by throwing a chicken into it to show off. It turned into black ashes in just 2.5 seconds. Upon hearing this, I closed the notebook in my hand. It seems that Reach Prince's target is my supplies and snowmobile. If he doesn't get them, one's own safety should be guaranteed. When the time comes, as long as I put away the snowmobile in advance. Even if I am really being controlled by him, he should not kill me directly. He should be taking me to the sanctuary for interrogation. This way, I can safely enter the most dangerous passageway. Su Hao quickly agreed. I pretended to cooperate with Reach Prince. At the time, you pretended to be hypnotized by the gas. Wait until you successfully pass the trap before catching him off guard. The success rate is at least 95%. But there is still a small sense of unease in the heart. After all, one's life motto is just one word. That word is stability. Men are originally a waste simp. After rebirth, he unexpectedly gained a supernatural ability to control space, just before the arrival of the extreme cold apocalypse. The man used this supernatural ability. Not only did he stock up an entire well-marked supermarket in advance, he also managed to secure the entire arsenal of the military camp. At this moment, in order to improve their living environment, I have decided to take over the billion-dollar sanctuary of Reach Prince. According to Su Hao's description, there are not only high-temperature flame jet devices at the entrance. There are also tear gas and hypnotic gas. If following Su Hao's plan. After all, the initiative is not in one's own hands. Still unable to feel completely at ease. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit me. It's my supernatural ability of space. All along, I simply possess the supernatural ability of space. Use it as a storage warehouse. Never considered using it on a battlefield. Another dimension can instantly absorb all objects. And the time inside the space is close to absolute stillness. If this supernatural ability can be fully realized to its full potential, the harvest would be absolutely immeasurable. Thinking of this, I suddenly stood up. Su Hao holding onto my thigh gestured to go back. However, Su Hao was frightened. Can't wait anymore. I feel like I'm going to be poisoned to death immediately. I gave him a scornful look. I told you 7 days, and you can rest assured. We haven't taken over the refuge of Reach Prince yet. I won't let you get poisoned. Look at my fierce eyes. Su Hao hesitated to speak. Then he left the safe house with a sad face. After sending away Su Hao, I can't wait to verify my guess. It seems that I am definitely not the only one in another dimension. And only with precise shooting skills. There are still many potentials waiting for oneself to assimilate and develop. Need to come up with a strategy to block Reach Prince. I immediately lit a pile of firewood in the living room. Next, I activated another dimension to contain the flames. Since the interior of another dimension is in a state of absolute stillness, according to Newton's law of energy conservation, I just need to reverse the direction of the vector to bounce back the flames that are attacking me. A set of combos followed, and it was successful as expected. There was excitement in my eyes. Another dimension, indeed, has unlimited potential. With this defensive skill, I can basically become immune to all harm. So what's next? Just need to master this combo skill set proficiently. Any long-range attacks will be ineffective against me. Even at a high level of proficiency, close-range attacks won't be a problem. At this point, I thought of another question. What would happen if I bring a person into another dimension? I have only tested it with a few fish before. But the fish died the next day. If it really comes to a close combat situation, this move may be very useful. Thinking of this, I immediately decided. Go downstairs and find someone to try it. Those who have done perversion know. The more the other person resists, the more excited oneself will become. To verify the combat hypothesis of another dimension, I asked the neighbors to nominate an honest person as cannon fodder. I heard that I was chosen to be experimented on by you. The cannon fodder has already prepared to face death. I immediately threw a stick at the cannon fodder. You just use it to attack me. As long as you can hit me, I will reward you with a roasted chicken. When this was said, the man immediately picked up a stick. Thinking that since death is inevitable anyway, he might as well give it his all. Thinking of this, the man raised his stick and came chopping. Seeing this, I did not dodge at all. I immediately opened another dimension. After more than a month of use in the apocalypse, I have already developed an instinct for opening and closing another dimension. In an instant, a formless and intangible gateway to another dimension appeared in the palm of my hand. The next moment, the man was dumbfounded. The wooden stick disappeared into thin air in front of my palm. The man wanted to escape but couldn't. With a gentle tug from me, the man was completely pulled into another dimension. I switched my perspective to inside another dimension, carefully scrutinizing the cannon fodder in front of me. The man was already in a state of stillness. Even the pulse and heartbeat cannot be detected. It looks like time in another dimension is truly at a standstill. Thinking about this, I let the man out. The man was breathing heavily, as he gasped for air at this moment. His face was an unusually pale color. He could hardly believe that he was still alive. It seems that in another dimension, a short time will not lead to death. Then I asked the man, describe to me the feeling you just had. The man weakly said, it felt like entering a world covered in white mist. I saw piles of goods stacked up like mountains. And I felt like I had spent a whole century there. That feeling was too terrifying. At that moment, my pupils contracted. It turned out that the consciousness of a person still exists in another dimension. Time in another dimension is also not absolutely still. Instead, it flows many times slower. In other words, once you enter, even if your body is immobile, your consciousness is still constantly fleeting. That feeling must be extremely painful, ultimately leading to a mental breakdown. And just at the moment, when I was about to bring it into another dimension. It's like moving a tall building, extremely difficult. Does another dimension have a rejection effect on large organisms? Since living creatures cannot be taken in, what if only a part of it is dismantled? With this in mind, I'll just cut off the man's 2 fingers directly. The man wants to resist, but his body doesn't dare to move at all. I successfully collected the incomplete finger into another dimension. This scene has sparked more curiosity in me. Why can't living people do it? However, the severed finger was successfully collected without any obstacles. Does this imply some underlying principle? Thinking of this, I took out a roll of gauze and threw it to the man. Wrap it yourself. After you're done, we'll continue. This time, you are using things to hit me. The global ice apocalypse is approaching in about 40 days. All orders and rules have collapsed. The evil of human nature is fully exposed at this moment. To verify the combat effectiveness of one's another dimension, I decisively removed the grindstone after killing the donkey. Looking at the person writhing in pain on the ground, I took out a plate of roasted chicken from another dimension. He, with his severed finger, was about to faint. But seeing the roasted chicken, he immediately regained consciousness. He didn't even care about the pain in his finger. He began to eat voraciously while crying, and after finishing, he continued with the experiment. After several hours of repeated verification, I have gained a better understanding of another dimension's practical combat capability. First, it is unable to bring in objects with strong forces, and it seems to be ineffective on living creatures. Second, when used, it can open a gateway to a space and transfer physical form attacks through the gateway. At the same time, counterattack by adjusting the vector direction. At this moment, I approached and looked at the man who was still gnawing on the sausage. Thank you for your cooperation. You are no longer of value to me. Blame it on you knowing too much. Without waiting for that person to answer, I directly slashed his throat. In the man's eyes, there was not a trace of fear. It was more like liberation. It even reveals a hint of gratitude. It seems to thank me for helping him break free from this cruel world. At least before death, he got to enjoy delicious roasted chicken. In the next 2 days, I will select one person each day for a real-life simulation to ensure everything goes smoothly. 3 days passed quickly. I have basically mastered the use of skills. Then I called Su Hao. But just 3 days without seeing him, he seemed to have aged a lot. Clearly, he is eating better than before. And he didn't ingest any poison. But he seems to be poisoned as if it were real. It seems that the psychological suggestion is really tormenting him. Big brother ZhangYi, I feel like I'm going to die soon. Please detoxify me first. Seeing the situation, I took out a bag of saline solution. Su Hao rolled up his sleeves eagerly. Hurry, give me an injection. After injecting him slowly, I indicated that this was just to ease the symptoms. But at most for 5 days. You'd better pray that our operation is successful. Otherwise, you are doomed. Injected with saline solution, Su Hao suddenly felt a mysterious power. He immediately became more energetic. Su Hao also patted his chest and said, I guarantee with my life that Brother Jean can definitely take down the shelter smoothly. I have already made contact with Reach Prince. Just give the order, and we can act immediately. The clueless Reach Prince is still waiting for us to be fooled. It's evident from his urgent tone. Reach Prince is very envious of Zhang's resources. Perhaps his resources are running low. Later, I asked Su Hao to communicate with Reach Prince in front of me. Su Hao had no choice but to comply. It seems that progress is going smoothly. Agreed to meet tomorrow. Then I sent Su Hao away immediately. Prepared weapons in the room. Planning to have a big battle tomorrow. Joe Carroll finally became a clingy wild cat. Seeing me fully armed and ready to go out, Joe Carroll ran over and gave me a bear hug. With a worried and gentle expression on her face, she said, Brother ZhangYi, please don't do anything dangerous. Hasn't the conflicts in the neighborhood been resolved? What are you trying to say? I didn't reveal too much to her about it. I've left Uncle Yo a half-month's worth of food. Your food is also prepared in the kitchen. I will let you know when the time is right after I come back. I pinched Joe Carroll's chin. You don't need to worry. I, ZhangYi, never engage in battles without certainty. After my careful calculations, this operation has only a 97% chance of success. But I am fully prepared for it. I kissed Carol hard on the cheek, making her almost breathless before releasing her. A glistening streak remained at the corner of her lips. Carol had a shy and reluctant expression on her face. You just stay at home obediently, okay? Come back, and I will tidy you up properly. After closing the door, Carol, with a worried expression, sat limply in front of the door. I had an appointment with Su Hao tomorrow. He intentionally left without warning on the same day. Su Hao looked very reluctant. His mouth kept praising. Brother Zhang's move is indeed clever. At this point, I took out a rope. Put your hand out. Su Hao pleaded with a look of urgency. Why don't you trust me? The poison in my body has not been detoxified yet, I said lightly. It's simple. I just want to make the performance more realistic. Think about it. When Prince Reach sees you being tied up, he will definitely trust us more. Su Hao also knows that all his resistance is futile. He can only submit immediately. After finishing these, I started the motorcycle and headed towards the outside of the community. The wind and snow on the way are like knives, cutting into Su Hao's face. Su Hao trembled and asked, "This wind and snow are hurting my face." I coldly chuckled and said, "Just endure it. After all, looking a bit miserable will make you appear more authentic." Soon, they arrived at the top villa area in Tianhai City, at the entrance of Yonka State. I carefully looked around at the scenery. I couldn't help but be a little stunned too. This villa area has excellent feng shui with mountains and sea. It is located between two hills. It blocks most of the cold winds, and even the snow is shallower here than in other places. It turns out even natural disasters are unfair. The rich are even favored by God. Hear my sigh. Su Hao immediately flattered him. "What's the use of this? The tycoons here pale in comparison to you, Brother Zhang. That's not called living at all. There's still a distance from here to the entrance." I deliberately put the motorcycle into another dimension early to prepare to walk into the villa area. Su Hao beside was instantly stunned. "So you're a supernatural person. Here she comes, here she comes." Mimi has finally arrived. ZhangYi just arrived at the entrance of Yunke Estate with Su Hao. They were immediately spotted by an attractive and confident young woman. To be able to live in such a high-end community. Either they are top-tier tycoons, or they are A-list celebrities in the entertainment industry. The young woman watched as ZhangYi and Su Hao walked past the door, looking conflicted. The carbon crystal at home was running out soon. The food probably won't last another week. The appearance of ZhangYi and Su Hao. A glimmer of hope appeared in the eyes of the noblewoman. They were able to possess snowmobiles and looked agile. This indicated that they had the ability to survive in the apocalypse. It seems that in order to survive, one must establish contact and attach oneself to these two people. After all, who would refuse an extremely beautiful top celebrity? ZhangYi was unaware that she herself had been noticed. The two quickly arrived at the gate of Reach Prince's villa. ZhangYi held a gun to Su Hao's head. "This is the sanctuary you mentioned, right? Hurry up and open the door for me." Su Hao walked emotionally to the door. He was ready to communicate with Reach Prince inside the house. However, everything had already been controlled from the control room. Reach Prince saw it clearly. Reach Prince was also surprised by the situation. Clearly it was agreed upon for tomorrow. How come it arrived today? Also, how come I didn't see the snowmobile? Reach Prince is extremely dissatisfied. There is absolutely no intention of opening the door. Just quietly observing through surveillance. Su Hao could only reluctantly pretend to use the retinal scan to unlock the door. After waiting for a few minutes, ZhangYi had already begun to get impatient. He picked up the gun and aimed at the back of Su Hao's head. "If you dare play any tricks, I will blow you up right now." Hearing this, Su Hao almost peed his pants. Then he made faces towards the surveillance camera, as if telling Reach Prince, "Brother Prince, we have worked so hard for so long. We must not lose all our previous achievements. This time is a great opportunity." Reach Prince understood what Su Hao meant. In his heart, he actually did not trust Su Hao very much. But thinking about the flawless sanctuary he had. "If you dare to play any tricks, I will turn you into roast pigs in an instant." With this in mind, Reach Prince pressed the button to open the door. Behind the door was a corridor over 10 meters long. Looking at this extremely luxurious corridor, ZhangYi couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, having money allows one to do whatever they want. Su Hao pointed inside. "After passing through that door inside, we can enter the shelter." ZhangYi held a gun against Su Hao's head. Advanced step by step. In the control room, Reach Prince held a glass of red wine in his hand. Pressing the control key with one hand, he smiled confidently. He thought to himself, "These two have finally taken the bait. I can go tie them up in 5 minutes." At the same time, inside the passage, suddenly 2 rows of densely packed small holes appeared from above, continuously emitting white gas. In an instant, the two people were engulfed in the white mist. ZhangYi finally successfully entered the billion-dollar shelter. But before there was time to marvel at its luxury, hundreds of small holes suddenly appeared above their heads. The two people were instantly engulfed by white gas. Reach Prince watched the scene on the monitor, his face full of smugness. ZhangYi is also preparing to put on a full show. The two of them exchanged heated words in the smoke. "Su Hao, you mongrel. Daring to plot against me. ZhangYi, just accept your fate. We don't care about your life. I, Prince, only want your motorcycle and supplies." Shortly after, there were sounds of gunshots in the smoke. Richest Prince shook the red wine glass in his hand. "You can close the net now. Inhale this high-intensity gas. Soon, people will be in a coma. Even if they wake up, they will be in a state of weakness all over." Little did they know that ZhangYi had already put on a gas mask and inhaled a large amount of gas into another dimension. ZhangYi is just leaning against the wall pretending to be unconscious. He is thinking that once Richest Prince appears, he will immediately take him down. Before long, the gate at the end slowly opens as expected. But ZhangYi looks carefully. The person who came over doesn't seem to be Richest Prince. ZhangYi couldn't help but curse in his heart. This useless Su Hao never mentioned that there were others in the shelter. It wasn't until approaching closer that he could see clearly. This person is a movie and television star. The dream of countless young girls, Lamb Dog. It is said that Richest Prince is a good friend of Lamb Dog. Seeing Lamb Dog, he did not have the intention to kill him. ZhangYi decided to play along and allowed Lamb Dog to carry them into the shelter. ZhangYi also squinted his eyes to assess the scene inside the shelter. The room is filled with a futuristic metallic feel, like the interior of a spaceship from a sci-fi movie. They were soon brought before Richest Prince. Lamb Dog threw them to the ground. These two fools. With a little strategy, he easily subdued them. Then he tied up ZhangYi and the other person. At this time, Richest Prince also came over. "The shelter that I built for $1 billion US. It's impossible that even these two paupers can't be handled. Tie up the two of them." Richest Prince and Lamb Dog started to discuss the next plan. "Just get your hands on this kid's snowmobile. We can go out for a ride every day. And we can also get some food on the way back." Little did they know that at this time, ZhangYi had quietly opened another dimension and slowly released the gas that had been sucked in before. They were still planning to get a snowmobile to enjoy their happy life. Suddenly, they felt everything spinning around. When the two realized something was wrong, it was already too late. By this time, ZhangYi had already taken out a dagger from another dimension and cut the rope. He then walked up to the two. These two brainless idiots. Then ZhangYi searched the weapons on the two desert eagles made of pure gold. After securely tying up the two individuals, ZhangYi was prepared to thoroughly enjoy this billion-dollar sanctuary. However, upon entering the living room, he was nearly shocked to the point of dropping his jaw. Indeed, having money allows one to do as they please. Immediately following, ZhangYi walked towards the back door of the living room. Opening it up and taking a look, the scene in front of his eyes instantly stunned him. He had thought that the living room was already luxurious enough. "I didn't expect the garden to be so large. Look at it. It's like a miniature ecosystem. The area of this villa is truly astonishing. It can truly be called the perfect fortress in the end times. This is 1,000 times better than my own 3-bedroom apartment. But in the future, this will be mine. I wonder what secret lies within Prince Richest's billion-dollar shelter. What unspeakable secret is there? I have decided to carefully explore and find out." I walked up the stairs to the second floor. The decoration here is even more technological than the first floor. Each room on both sides is labeled with a tag indicating its use. There is an esports hall, a pet room, a home theater, and a room for couples, everything you can think of. I randomly opened the pet room next to me and saw a myriad of eyes. Inside, there were indeed cats, dogs, and even ferrets. However, they were cosplayed as cat girls and rabbit girls. The three of them had hot figures and were dressed provocatively. Lying on the ground with a face full of ecstasy, various clothing, needles, and other items were scattered on the ground. Seeing someone entering the door, the bunny girl crawled over with tears streaming down her face, full of pleading. "Master Prince, please give us another chance. We will definitely satisfy you. If not, give us some good things." I kicked him away. "You shameless prostitutes. You're spending quite a lot of money playing with Lord Prince." At this moment, the bunny girl spoke. "We are not prostitutes. We are socialites. I won't waste my time talking to them either." This kind of woman who would sell her body for money is definitely a troublemaker if kept around. The next moment, I will shoot them one by one and send them away on the spot. Then I will open the themed waterbed room, only to see a few young women in cool clothes lying on the bed. It should be the same as the famous ladies next door, but it seems that their bodies have already cooled down. No wonder there was a cold wind when they went upstairs just now. The problem lies here. After exploring the first 2 floors, I found my way to the monitoring room in the basement. It looks like a spaceship down here. It seems like this is the control center for the entire shelter. But look at all these confusing buttons. It's so professional. Without a manual, it's impossible to figure it out just by fumbling around. Looking at the monitoring display, there are all kinds of facilities on the second basement level. But all the rooms here have closed doors. To open them, you need to go through identity authentication. It seems you need to pass through the shelter smoothly. You must pry open Reach Prince's mouth. Obtain control of the entire shelter. I thought of this and returned to the first floor hall. I splashed a basin of cold water over myself. It's quite refreshing to pour cold water over your head in this temperature. Prince suddenly woke up, but he found himself tightly bound. How did you, a poor ghost, manage to do this? I coldly chuckled at his words. It's been over a month since the apocalypse. How could I have survived till now without learning some life-saving skills? I picked up the gun and aimed it at Reach Prince. But I don't have time to chit-chat with you here now. You better think about what chips you have on you to cooperate with me. How to save your dog's life is important. After all, how decadent is the life of the rich second-generation Reach Prince? After inspecting the shelter, my 3 views collapsed in an instant. But all of these will be mine. Then I woke up Reach Prince with a basin of water. After all, I wanted to gain control of the entire shelter. You must pry open Reach Prince's mouth. The awakened Reach Prince panicked. I thought there was no way to break the impregnable sanctuary. Unexpectedly, it was so easily breached by the man in front of me. Suddenly, I felt like the tens of billions of dollars spent were all in vain. Seeing the situation, I decided to first show goodwill. Prince, you don't need to be too nervous. I just want a place to survive. After all, the outside world is cold and resources are scarce. Having one more person in your shelter wouldn't hurt, right? Hearing this, Reach Prince also lowered his guard slightly. Do you just want to live with me? Are you not trying to get rid of me and take my place instead? I laughed. Although I am not a good person indeed, I am not so heartless as to harm innocent people. Your place is big enough for everyone to live together. Besides, this is also a good opportunity to make friends with noble young men. Hearing that Reach Prince has arrived, I feel hopeful. It seems like there is a turning point. After all, before the end of the world, who wouldn't want to be friends with me, Reach Prince? He is already familiar with this. So you want to get to know me? I nodded earnestly and sat up from the chair. This heavy snow is indeed terrifying, but it should pass soon. When social order is restored, if a small person like me can connect with His Highness Prince, wouldn't I be on the road to success sooner or later? Confronting Prince with arrogance. This is simple. As long as I make a move, I guarantee you will be successful. At this moment, Reach Prince also secretly thought to himself. It seems that ZhangYi still dares not kill me. He naively believes that the snow disaster will end sooner or later. His own life is considered saved. Then he continued to speak. Feel free to take anything in the room. There are also 3 top-class beauties upstairs that can be gifted to you. First, help me untie the rope. I gave him a playful look. I don't lack any of those. Since you agreed to let me move in, please grant me access to the shelter system. Only then can I completely trust you. Prince Reach pondered for a moment. What if I authorize you to use it? Can you guarantee not to kill me? I walked up to Prince Reach with a displeased expression on my face. I just said, I have no need to kill you. And after the disaster, I also hope you will help me. Seeing this, Prince Reach felt a chill in his heart. He knew he had no choice because the man in front of him could kill him at any time. Helplessly, Prince Reach brought me to the control room, following instructions. I found the instructions for using the shelter. After confirming to gain control, I almost smiled from ear to ear. Reach Prince on the side hurriedly urged me to untie him. You must keep your promise. My body is starting to go numb. Please release me quickly. I smiled as I gritted my teeth. Just wait a moment. Before he could finish speaking, I drew out a dagger. With a swift turn, I plunged it into his neck. Fresh blood gushed out like a spring. Prince Richest's face was full of shock. Seemingly unable to understand, he followed through with everything himself. Soon Prince had lost his vitality. He just stared with unwillingness in his eyes. I explained this softly as well. You are no longer of value to me. Hatred has taken root. I can't possibly have a time bomb around me. What is life like for the wealthy in the apocalypse? A shelter built with billions of dollars. It not only has all the entertainment facilities you can think of. There is even a microecological chain farm. But all of this is already mine. After solving Prince in one move. Also take care of Lamb Dog on the side. I cleaned up the residual blood stains with a mop in my hand. Looking at Su Hao, who is still in a coma. I hesitated whether to get rid of this burden as well. But after all, without Su Hao's help, I wouldn't have found this perfect sanctuary on my own at all. Not to mention seizing control here. At this moment, Su Hao opened his eyes wearily. When he saw me clearly in front of him, his face was full of ecstasy. My brother Zhang has indeed succeeded. He immediately stood up abruptly and looked at the Prince, who was shouting. I really did not mistake the person. But brother Zhang, how did you do it? I looked very pleased. Don't forget that I am an urban special forces soldier. A retired mercenary. Dealing with a rich kid like that is a piece of cake for me. Su Hao fiercely stomped on the body of Prince. You damn waste! Never expected you to end up like this. At this moment, I took out a mountaineering backpack from another dimension. This is the reward you deserve. Open it and take a look. Su Hao's eyes lit up. Seeing the backpack filled with delicious food, his mouth almost reached the back of his head. He immediately showed his loyalty while eating the food. Zhang, you are my true brother. In the future, you can command me even if it means going through fire and water. If I hesitate for even a second, I am not a real person. At this moment, I slowly opened my mouth and said, While you were unconscious just now, I carefully checked the remaining supplies in the shelter. Most of the supplies have been squandered by Prince. The energy supply is estimated to last only about 2.5 years. So you can't stay with me. Take the reward I gave you. Leave here. Upon hearing this, Su Hao was stunned as if struck by lightning. He stood there blankly. I have done you such a big favor. All I want is for you to protect me and keep me alive. How can you kick me out with one foot? Su Hao roared hysterically. You can't treat me like this. I will never leave. As he spoke, he threw away the backpack in his hand. He walked forward angrily, wanting to challenge me head-on. You can't burn your bridges like this. If you dare to drive me away, I will occupy this place if you dare. And I will expose the fact that you are becoming a supernatural person. At that time, many people will naturally come to deal with you. As soon as this was said, I raised the pistol without hesitation. Bang. Instantly penetrated Su Hao's head. I am ready to let you go. So I am not an ungrateful person. Who dares you to talk tough and threaten me? Killing you would be quite reasonable and logical. I nodded in satisfaction. Coldly I said to Su Hao's body. Anger won't make you stronger. Only strength is the hard truth. Then I picked up the backpack on the ground. I had already decided not to kill you. You forced me. Under the ice-sealed end of the world. I have occupied the world's top shelter. Just one of the entertainment rooms is bigger than my whole house. But I am the only living person in the entire shelter. It's really boring. Why not bring Carol over to study evolution? As for Uncle Yo, I'm sure he won't want to share this sanctuary with anyone. After all, Joe Carol and I need enough space for just the two of us. If there are outsiders at home, the two of us can't fully express ourselves. However, in order to repay his kindness, you can leave your safe house to Uncle Yo. After all, it is a safe house you built with your own hands. Someone should be left to guard it. It can also serve as a backup stronghold for oneself. Give yourself an extra way out. Uncle Yo will surely be very grateful. And last time, you promised to find a companion for Uncle Yo. After all, you killed his beloved Sherry. You have to make it up to Uncle Yo. However, this matter must also be carefully considered. If you find another cunning woman like Sherry, it will be a headache. First, let's take a look at this 300-inch plasma TV from Richest. Turn it on and see. It's all foreign channels with blonde hair and blue-eyed people. This surprised me. Blizzard should have cut off a large area of the signal a long time ago. How did he do this? Then I switched to dozens of other channels. They are still channels from around the world. Could this shelter have a super strong network system installed? Following the cables to the rooftop, indeed there is a giant network server. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but laugh. Such a powerful network system. The transmission capacity is basically at a global level. If one could master this system, then one could access information on a global scale through the network. Thinking of this, I immediately arrived at the control room. I opened the computer and browsed the current events. After a search, I found some information. It's basically what I had in mind. The icebound end of the world has been for over a month. Today, 3/4 of the population on the blue planet have already been wiped out. It is estimated that only 2 billion people remain. Continuing to browse the web, suddenly saw some news about supernatural persons. I sat up straight away. This is exactly the information that I eagerly want to know. So far, reports of mutated organisms have already been seen in over 100 countries. And it's not just limited to humans. This includes animals, insects, and even plants. Apart from a very few who gain extraordinary powers different from normal humans, most of the reports are about causing deformities and distortions in the human body. Some have even turned into unrecognizable forms. Although the number of reported mutants may not be high, there are definitely many people like me who hide their abilities. That is to say, the outside world is full of dangers. This further confirms my determination to live well in the shelter. In any case, I have plenty of supplies. But I still need to go back and bring Carol over. After all, living with a beautiful and sensible woman is better together. The days will not be boring. Soon I will be riding a snowmobile back to the Yulu residential area. Just as I was about to start the engine, a woman's voice came from behind me. I heard this childish and squeaky voice. I turned around to take a look. Surprise and delight flickered in my eyes. Could it be? You're Mimi. Can I borrow your bathroom for a moment? When ZhangYi asked this question, I was completely stunned. I almost had the whole burial planned out. It turned out to be just now. I was just about to pick up Carol and bring her to the shelter. A familiar voice stopped me. Please wait for me. I immediately drew my pistol and shouted loudly as I turned around. Who's there? At this moment, a pretty girl with a good figure appeared in sight. In a split second, I recognized this woman. She is the top female star that everyone in Hua country knows. The dream lover of countless men. ZhangYi. Only seeing ZhangYi with a pitiful look on her face. I haven't eaten for 9 meals in 3 days. Can you take me away too? I don't want to die here. Hearing this, I frowned. When a popular female celebrity takes the initiative to come to me. Am I dreaming? But under the current circumstances, everyone is living from hand to mouth. You want me to take you away. Please give me a solid and sufficient reason. ZhangYi bit her lip lightly. Her eyes looked pitifully at me pleadingly. I just want to survive. As long as you are willing to feed me, I can satisfy any unreasonable request you have. Looking at her innocent yet seductive cherry-like lips, my face flushed instantly. I couldn't think of any words to refuse at all. Suddenly, my soul was drawn out. Then come with me. I turned around immediately. In an instant, I dismissed the idea of going back to Yulu community to pick up Carol. Soon, the two of them arrived at Yunk Estate 101. ZhangYi looked surprised. Isn't this the residence of Richest? I took out the magnetic card and skillfully opened the door. Now this place is my home. Enter the shelter with a constant temperature of 27 degrees. ZhangYi soon felt uncomfortably hot all over. Hurriedly took off the thick coat. Looking at ZhangYi under the gray sweater, her impressive figure still hard to conceal. I swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This bad person today. I made up my mind. ZhangYi felt my undisguised gaze. She lightly brushed her long hair and asked, "What is your relationship with the host here?" I didn't answer. Instead, I asked directly, "Are you very familiar with the Richest? People in our circle are all acquainted with him." Who doesn't know that their family business is big and wealthy? However, our relationship is not deep. It's just a nodding acquaintance we would encounter at some events. Then she murmured with self-deprecation. He's that kind of young master who doesn't even bother to regard us actors. I poured a cup of hot water and handed it over. Since that's the case, you don't need to ask more. Just remember, now I am the host here. Things have come to this. I'm not afraid at all if the matter of Sandreach Prince is exposed. After all, what are a few billionaires and celebrities? In the end times, life is as light as a flake of straw. Yang Mimi understands. She directly finishes the drink in one gulp. After drinking with a shy face, she asks, "Can I take a hot bath at your place?" I pointed my finger towards the bathroom. "Please go ahead." Yang Mimi walked towards the bathroom, while taking off her close-fitting clothes on the floor. The long-awaited hot bath immediately made Yang Mimi unable to resist. But actually, as soon as she entered the villa, Yang Mimi carefully considered each step she took. For her, this was a high-stakes gamble. She was well aware of the price she could pay now. It was only this that made countless men. Just a bodily obsession. Watching the man outside the bathroom taking off his clothes, Yang Mimi knew she had won the gamble. After all, this guy was not an ugly old man. This clean big boy. It doesn't seem like a loss even if she ends up with him at the end of the world. I am also a very polite person. I didn't frisk her unreasonably when she entered. But just for safety. I carefully checked her over while she was bathing, to prevent the possibility of her hiding weapons or poison. With just a cup of inexpensive hot water, the top female celebrity let down her guard. The national goddess Yang Mimi even felt. It was a fair trade. So the end of the world has come. Whether celebrities or billionaires, life is no different from weeds. Only material goods are considered hard currency. Nowadays, female celebrities take the initiative to come to the door. I can't think of any reason to refuse at all. She was taken to a shelter. But as soon as she came in, she started taking off her clothes. She also said she wanted to borrow the bathroom. The long-lost hot bath made Yang Mimi realize. This time she made the right bet. She immediately decided to come clean with me. Although she is not the kind of woman who climbs the career ladder by using unspoken rules, she has reached her current position through her own efforts. She completely relies on her own efforts to achieve success. She knows deeply that in order to survive, she must be prepared to make sacrifices. And the price she can pay now is only her body, which haunts countless men. After all, it is a matter of life and death. After the snow disaster passes, she will still be that dazzling top star. Thinking of this, Yang Mimi walked out of the bathroom. Today sadly asked, "In this kind of apocalypse, as a weak woman, I have no chance of survival. So can you shelter me? I need a man to protect me." Holding my hands tightly, she looked at me with a pleading expression. "I won't bother you for too long. I will leave after the snow disaster is over. Only the two of us know about this memory." I tried to let go of her hand. I thought to myself that Yang Mimi is indeed a clever woman. She got straight to the point. "That's fine. It saves us from the fake emotional talk. But do you really think that after the snow disaster is over, will the world really return to how it was before? You're being too naive." Upon hearing this, Yang Mimi looked confident. "Definitely. It will end. It cannot be just a heavy snowfall. It can bury all the efforts of my life. I don't care about these at all. Anyway, I have sufficient resources, and it doesn't matter. Now that I have figured out Yang Mimi's thoughts, I have decided not to waste any more time. You can move in, but you have to follow my rules for everything here. You have no chance to argue. These are my basic principles." Yang Mimi had long been prepared in her heart. I also no longer suppress myself. Pushing down Yang Mimi. This is what countless men in Hua country dream of, getting close to the most. The young and frivolous self before the end of the world. I had also fantasized about such a scenario. I never expected that today's dream would actually come true. 3 minutes later, I satisfiedly took out a dress from another dimension. Yang Mimi, feeling unsatisfied, was instantly stunned. What kind of magic is this? I turned around and prepared to leave. Just a little trick. Quick, put it on. At this moment, Yang Mimi stopped me. That soft, gentle voice almost melted my heart instantly. Is there still a second half? Yang Mimi stood up shyly. No, not really. I have something important to discuss with you. I stretched lazily. Let's continue in a different place. I'm a little hungry. Let's go get some food first. Here I am. ZhangYi has developed a new love. After several tug-of-wars with Yang Mimi, I finally couldn't control myself. Pushed her down directly. After pulling up my pants, I am still ready to go back to pick up Cho Carol. But Yang Mimi grabbed me and, sandwiched between those soft and mushy noises, said she wanted to talk to me about business. A while later, we arrived in the living room. After some grooming, Yang Mimi looked refreshed. She once again restored her elegant and noble image. I took out some hot food and put it on the table. This scene once again left Yang Mimi stunned. Is magic happening again? Let's chat while we eat. We can discuss everything openly. It's better not to keep things bottled up to avoid extra worries later on. I don't have any special requests from you. It's just a matter of compliance with a word. You are a smart woman. I'm sure you can understand what I mean. Yang Mimi bit her lip. Still feeling ashamed about the big battle just now. I understand. This kind of thing is not uncommon in the entertainment industry. But I also have my bottom line and principles. I hope you can understand too. I suddenly laughed. I thought to myself, daring to bargain with me on my territory. Indeed, she is a top female celebrity. So what do you have to say? Yang Mimi said with a serious tone. First of all, I hope you don't spread our relationship to others. After the snow disaster, we can part amicably. After all, I am a public figure. I don't want my reputation to be affected. Otherwise, I can only retreat into the background. I think this is reasonable. I readily agree to this. Second, I will definitely comply with your request. But you can't force me to do excessive things. You also shouldn't make too twisted requests. Unless you have my consent first. Watching that humiliation with a hint of shyness. Shyness mixed with a bit of struggle from Yang Mimi. Suddenly, I felt a strange sense of joy. Indeed, a pervert is one type of person. But being lecherous is a kind of spirit. I stood up abruptly and leaned in. Obviously, you took the initiative to come to me. Are you playing hard to get with me? Even if we are acting, as a professional actor, I hope your performance maintains. As long as it makes me happy, I will try to consider your requests. I gently lifted Yang Mimi and placed her on the dining table. Just as the arrow is about to be released, Yang Mimi still refuses to give up the opportunity to fight for her leverage. You agree to my conditions first. I smiled disapprovingly. Don't worry. After all, I'm not a demon. As long as you behave and listen obediently, I won't make things difficult for you. The next day, I'm still planning to go pick up Cho Carol first. Yang Mimi looks very worried. When will you be back? Seeing Yang Mimi reveal a charming posture, I couldn't help but smile. Don't worry. I've left food for you. I'll be back in a moment. Just then, a thought popped into my head. Are there any female celebrities from your circle still here? Yang Mimi blinked her big eyes. This is already a top-level wealthy area. The net worths are at least in the billions. There are naturally many female celebrities. It's like this. I have a friend. He was emotionally deceived by a calculating woman. Now he needs someone like you to comfort a wounded soul. So I want to introduce him to my companion. I want you to see if there is a suitable person in my wealthy circle. Upon hearing this, Yang Mimi was instantly stunned. She was suddenly a mixture of shame and indignation. Are you sure it's for your friend? It's not for yourself, is it? In the apocalypse, all it takes is a piece of bread to make the national goddess chase after a poor security guard in his 40s. It just happened. I was just about to go pick up Cho Carol. Suddenly thought of Uncle Yo still in his safe house. Then I asked Yang Mimi to help find a partner in the socialite circle. The only requirement is no malicious intentions, and not well endowed. I didn't expect that Yang Mimi immediately agreed. Nowadays, there are still many people living in the wealthy districts. Naturally, there are many wealthy women. However, it is indeed quite difficult to say that there are no malicious intentions. Yang Mimi pondered for a moment and carefully asked. But if the age is a bit older, your friend won't mind, right? Considering Uncle Yo's age and preferences. Originally, I just wanted to introduce Uncle Yo to someone mature and stable. And someone who knows when to advance and when to retreat. Not like Sherry, who keeps pushing the limits recklessly. Young Mimi breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. Then it should be easy. Do you know a person named Kathy Zoe? When this was said, my pupils constricted slightly. Who in Hua country doesn't know Kathy Zoe? She is my childhood goddess. Although now over 40, even the 25-year-old self couldn't help but praise her when seeing her, saying, "You still have your charm." You quickly contact her. Soon, Kathy arrived at the shelter wearing a coat. Seeing the still glamorous and voluptuous goddess, I couldn't help but think to myself, Uncle Yo made a fortune this time. I immediately took out some food from another dimension. Kathy's eyes lit up in an instant. She didn't care about being reserved or dignified. She sat on the sofa and began to eat voraciously. Eating while saying thank you for finding me a home. In such a harsh environment nowadays. Having a food source and relying on it. So Kathy also feels that there is no harm at all. Settle down here. I have decided to go back and pick up Cho Carol to bring her over. Before setting off, I solemnly reminded the two of them. Regarding all my affairs, they must be kept completely confidential. Absolutely do not tell anyone on the outside in any way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. I know well that these two are also not beginners in the business. There's no need to say more. I will then prepare to take Zoe Kathy to send to Uncle Yo. The cold wind is bleak. The river outside the villa area's entrance has long been frozen by ice and snow. And on the other side of the river bank, it is a poor town called Su Clan Town on the other side. They have been living off farming and fishing for generations. Compared to the people in the city, after the severe cold storm, they can be said to be the most comfortable group in all of Tianhai City. They are not short of food and have strong physical fitness. Most importantly, the villagers are united enough. Today they again brought tools to the river. Only hearing the leader shout, "Here, start digging!" As soon as the words fell, several people behind him pushed a huge ice-breaking device and began to get busy. They used huskies as traction. Driving the ice-breaking machine to rotate, they soon broke through the ice layer. Immediately after the ice layer was broken, many schools of fish surfaced. This is the main source of protein for their Su Clan town. At this time, the dog's owner, Su Manjin, chatted with the team leader, Su Dahai, while looking at the top luxury house not far away. Su Manjin laughed and said, "These pampered city folks should have frozen to death long ago. Fortunately, we are rural people. At least we have enough food at home. We don't have to worry about not being able to survive." Looking at the luxurious villas across the river, which used to be extremely beautiful, now it fills me with a sense of superiority. It was just idle chatter at that moment. Suddenly, the sound of an engine came from afar. The not particularly loud noise sounded especially harsh in the quiet and snowy environment. At this moment, I was riding a snowmobile with Zoe Kathy, driving fast on the icy river. I saw a group of people fishing on the river. I was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Who are they? Have they already acclimated to this extreme cold temperature? Under the extreme cold apocalypse. Who can survive longer, city dwellers or rural residents? It must be rural residents. But what I could never have imagined is this extreme weather of -70 to 80 degrees Celsius. I can still see fishermen catching fish on the river even under such extreme conditions. Before I could even have time to exclaim, suddenly came the barking of a dog that sounded fierce. Kathy Zoe behind me shouted, "There's a dog!" Only seeing 7 or 8 fierce-looking vicious dogs. While barking wildly, dragging a makeshift sled, they chased after them. I suddenly felt that things were not so simple. Then I asked Zoe Kathy to hold on tight. The next second, I revved the engine violently, ready to make a quick escape. I knew very well that the villagers in this area were known for their unity. The consequences that followed would likely involve the entire village. My snowmobile was drifting wildly on the river surface. But the speed of the few dogs behind me was not slow either. At this moment, a villager picked up a harpoon and viciously threw it towards me. I leaned to the side in a thrilling manner and narrowly avoided it. If I were hit by the harpoon, I would either die or be left half disabled. In order to avoid the spear, I suddenly jerked the steering wheel. At the same time, I hit the brakes hard and stopped the motorbike. Under the huge inertia. Even Kathy Zoe behind me was thrown out. This once famous female star was so scared that she burst into tears. At this time, the villagers who came to chase had already blocked the way ahead. They shouted, "Leave the car and the woman! You can go roll yourself!" At this point, I pulled out my pistol. Brothers, I don't look for trouble, but I'm not afraid of trouble either. Just let me pass through. The cold pistol obviously had a more intimidating effect. The villagers all involuntarily took a half step back. ZhangYi, the leader, asked with a submissive expression, "Brother, where did you get this motorcycle and gun? I don't want to waste time talking to them. What's wrong with using the prepaid phone credits we were given?" Several villagers exchanged glances as if discussing whether to retreat or not. But when they saw my motorcycle and Zoe Kathy behind me, still unable to hide the strong color of greed. At this time, a young man with a roguelike attitude said, "Brother, I won't make it difficult for you. After all, this is the territory of our village. If you want to pass through, you must leave either the woman or the car." I thought to myself, don't these people fear death? I raised my gun. Do you think this is a toy gun? Who knew the other person chuckled sarcastically. Who are you trying to scare? We have 4 people and 8 dogs. Do you have enough bullets? Those who can survive in the apocalypse are all desperados, who have long been indifferent to life and death. I see a group of people not far away. On the opposite shore is their Sioux clan town. If the villagers come to support, surely it will be very detrimental to themselves. If there is no common ground in our conversation, then don't blame me. Thinking about this, I reached into another dimension with my right hand and pulled out a pistol. You guys forced me into this. I suddenly made a move. The 2 guns instantly took down 4 people and 2 dogs. The sound of gunshots did not scare off the remaining crazy dogs. Instead, it made them even more excited. Lost the traction of the owner. Several dogs bared their teeth and pounced fiercely. It seemed like there was no time to shoot. At the critical moment, I quickly opened the door to another dimension. Several vicious dogs disappeared instantly in the same place. I just wanted to live a leisurely life with some beautiful women. I didn't expect to encounter trouble as soon as I stepped out. Across from Yunkei Estate is Sioux Clan Town. Today, I killed 4 people in Sioux Clan Town. Those people will surely come for revenge. Just now, I used another dimension for the first time in real combat. Successfully captured the opponent's 8 vicious dogs in it. I still feel lingering fear about this. I worry about the possibility of being bitten by these vicious dogs accidentally. Getting injured is a minor issue. In case of infection by the rabies virus, it would be disastrous. Luckily, this another dimension is truly a heaven-defying defense skill. To that, I've given this skill an extremely childish name. Dimension Gate. I have calmed my emotions slightly. I saw the villagers from Sioux Clan Town coming when they heard the sound. I quickly called the dazed Zoe Kathy to get in the car. I know very well that it is not suitable to stay here for long. I suddenly stepped on the gas pedal and sped away. I thought those few vicious dogs must die of oxygen deficiency in another dimension. This kind of large dog breed, weighing 40 to 50 pounds. It just so happens that we can use it to observe their time of death, in order to infer the time flow speed of another dimension. Just after I left, ZhangYi, the leader of the fishing team in Sioux Clan Town, arrived late. He looked at the bodies of 4 villagers on the ground. Everyone felt sorrow and grief. ZhangYi said in a pained voice, "I just told them not to cause trouble earlier. They just wouldn't listen and insisted on chasing after us on a sled pulled by dogs. Now they've put their own lives at risk." At this moment, a villager finally noticed that all the dogs had disappeared without a trace. These are the dogs raised in the village. They absolutely wouldn't run off with just anyone. It was only at this moment that everyone realized the seriousness of the situation. It seems like there are only 2 people on the other side. Not only do they have rare snowmobiles, they are also carrying guns. ZhangYi is also in a panic. I didn't expect that this time leading the team out would result in heavy losses. Not only did 4 people die, but even the precious dogs lost 8. It will be difficult to explain to the people in the village when we go back. Anyway, whoever dares to kill us must pay the price. However, the other party's methods are somewhat cunning. We must go back and discuss it with the village chief. Maybe that person is related to Turali. Also possesses extraordinary supernatural abilities. The room is filled with anime figurines. A fat otaku is holding his toy wife lovingly. The village chief and his group suddenly broke in. Something's wrong. Seeing Turali still slouching in bed, and the room full of anime merchandise. The village chief has a black line on his face. You are such an unreliable person. You're still watching these cartoons at your age. Turali, get up from the bed. I've already told you that I will introduce a girlfriend to you. What are you doing hugging a broken pillow? Turali just wouldn't listen. What's wrong with men being a bit weird? I'm not interested in country girls from the real world. The villagers looked speechless. Some even wanted to laugh. In the end, Turali sat down looking displeased. What's it to you guys? Why are you so anxious? ZhangYi then explained what had happened. Today 4 people were killed in our village. Hearing that it involved loss of life, Turali immediately became spirited. Would the surrounding villages still dare to defy us? How dare they come to attack us? ZhangYi said solemnly. This time should not be from the town. It is estimated to be someone from the villa area across the river. The village chief also feels that the situation is unusual. 4 people and 8 dogs were gone in just a few seconds. This person will definitely be a dangerous individual in the future. I am worried that it will affect the safety of the village. At this moment, Turali looked serious. Dragging his chin, he muttered to himself. Even though I am the only chosen one. But God will definitely arrange a destined enemy for me, making me stronger. Could it be? My opportunity has come? Am I finally going to leave the Su clan village? Carol is jealous. Really jealous. Seeing me bring back such an elegant beauty. Carol's jealousy pot instantly overturned. His face suddenly changed. Immediately became extremely attentive. Are you thirsty or not? Do you want me to pour you a cup of hot water? Are you hungry or not? Do you want to eat something downstairs? It seems like she is asserting her position as the female protagonist. Carol actually recognized her in front of her. Who is this woman who still has her charm? She is the famous female star, ZhangYi. Thinking that if she were 10 years younger, she might be no match for her. But I also can't quite figure out ZhangYi's preferences. Unable to help but lean close to my ear and whisper softly. So you like mature women like this? It was then that I caught a strong whiff of jealousy. But I really enjoy how Carol suddenly became so submissive. Competition truly drives progress. I am already fantasizing about a scene where she competes with young Mimi and gets jealous. After signaling for ZhangYi to sit down, I jokingly explained. I do like mature people indeed. But you shouldn't overthink it either. She is the one I hired to take care of Uncle Yo. I quickly changed the subject. How is Uncle Yo's health recently? Carol Cho, on the other hand, looked incredulous. Uncle Yo has already recovered. It's simply unbelievable. A normal person would have to stay in bed for at least 3 months. And I followed your instructions to secretly inject him with a muscle relaxant. Surprisingly, it also couldn't suppress his strength. Upon hearing this, I can basically confirm Uncle Yo's supernatural ability. It should be similar to that green monster in foreign movies. Is his mental state still normal? After all, he has seen a lot of negative reports about mutations in the shelter. Carol, however, shook his head. Uncle Yo's mental state is quite normal. There's no difference from before. I walked into Uncle Wu's ward with a sense of relief. I briefly talked to Uncle Yo about the shelter. Uncle Yo couldn't help but exclaim that the world of wealthy people is indeed different. It's really surprising that they actually spent so much money building a shelter. It seems that the heavens do favor the wealthy. With so many billionaires in the world, there are probably quite a few people building shelters. Thinking about this, Uncle Yo suddenly felt incredibly fortunate. Fortunately, I have met you, my good friend, for the privilege of living until now. Seeing straightforward Uncle Yo, I suddenly felt relieved. After all, he should be the only compatriot I have in this post-apocalyptic world. Meanwhile, in the town of Su Clan, Turali's expression was very serious. He has always felt that he is the chosen one. He believes that he is the main character of the story. He thought since God has granted him extraordinary power, there must be a destined enemy arranged for him to become stronger. It should be a test given by God to him. Fortunately, the villagers have already gotten used to his way of expression. At this point, the village chief said firmly, "All of us with the surname Su are of the same ancestry. He dares to lay a hand on and kill our villagers. We must make him pay his debt with blood. However, the other party is not a good person. So this task can only be entrusted to you. After all, you are the chosen one." Praised by the village chief like this, Suturali's chin almost reached the ceiling. Then he cleared his throat and said, "Villagers, don't worry. I also want to see. I will use all my strength to see how powerful I can be." How could he know? He just encountered the ultimate demon king as soon as he left the beginner's village. The honest and kind 40-year-old security guard unexpectedly had good luck with relationships. After the apocalypse, Sherry, who has comprehensive technical skills, is not the only one accompanying him. Now I have directly arranged for a female celebrity to be with him. Seeing that I brought his goddess to him, Uncle Yo instantly blushed like a 40-year-old child. On the other hand, ZhangYi couldn't help but sigh a little in her heart. Although Uncle Yo looks honest and kind, but with his unkempt appearance and scruffy beard, from an aesthetic point of view, the man in front of her is definitely not to her taste. But at the moment, she has no choice at all. If she could, she would rather stay by my side. After all, compared to Uncle Yo, I'm just a young, neat, inexperienced person. The most important thing is that I killed several people just now to save her life. This scene made a deep impression on her, directly boosting her hormones. But now there is simply no room for choice. ZhangYi can only sigh and resign herself to her fate. But in fact, Uncle Yo is not without his merits. I also learned that from my recent chat with him. Most importantly, the strength has become exceptionally powerful. With just a little force, even an iron bed can be deformed directly. I sighed inwardly at this. If this level of strength were used in close combat, it shouldn't be a problem to fight a tiger one-on-one, right? But Uncle Yo felt dejected, feeling like a monster himself. He didn't understand what had happened at all. Seeing this, I comforted Uncle Yo. I explained to him the current situation of biological mutations, and shared with him the news reports I found on the global network. After some explanation, Uncle Yo still found it half unbelievable and half credible. In order to gain each other's trust, I decided not to hide it from Uncle Yo anymore. I immediately performed a move of taking an object from a distance. Uncle Yo was staring in disbelief. It took a long time before he suddenly slapped the bed. So that's what happened. No wonder I always feel like your resources are endless. But with that force, you directly broke the iron bed frame. Fell to the ground instantly. Seeing this, I felt secretly pleased. Uncle Yo is a relationship that can withstand bullets. He is undoubtedly trustworthy. The stronger Uncle Yo gets, the greater the help for me in the future. That's when I'll bring out ZhangYi, taking advantage of the situation to show some adult kindness. ZhangYi is naturally perfect and impeccable for Uncle Yo, an old bachelor. She is like the goddess that appears countless times in his dreams. Uncle Yo couldn't close his mouth. I immediately said in a tone similar to a marriage officiant, "Let's live our lives together well. Huddle together for warmth and mutual support. Don't forget to help each other solve all kinds of troubles," I said as I patted Uncle Yo's shoulder. "I have arrived at a new shelter. Let this safe house be your bridal chamber. We won't disturb your world of the two of you." Uncle Yo suddenly felt embarrassed. "This safe house is your hard work. How can I?" Before he could finish, I immediately interrupted him. "That's settled then. After all, this place can't be left empty. Just consider it as helping me watch over it." Saying that, Joe Carroll was asked to pack up and get ready to leave. The group just arrived downstairs. I then gave the snowmobile to Uncle Yo, expressing that in the future, it can be used to go out and search for supplies. If you have time, you can also come to the shelter to play. Uncle Yo was deeply moved by my generosity, tears welling up in his eyes. He repeatedly waved his hands and refused, saying, "Absolutely not. What will you do if you give it to me?" As I spoke, I lightly waved my left hand. "Oh, as for me, anything will do." Just as the words fell, a top-notch snowmobile suddenly appeared on the snow. Several people were instantly stunned. This is a world of difference between a bicycle and a Ferrari. Can you really call this? Anything will do. When Cho Carol meets Mimi, what kind of spark will fly? After settling Zo Kathy with Uncle Yo, I will immediately take Cho Carol back to the shelter without stopping. I took out a luxurious snow vehicle from another dimension, racing wildly in the wind and snow with Cho Carol. The frozen apocalypse lasted for over a month. Cho Carol has never ventured out of the neighborhood. Looking at the icy and snowy world outside the car window, Cho Carol couldn't help asking, "ZhangYi, is our new home beautiful?" In response, I smiled faintly. This is a super mansion that cost $1 billion to build. It's 10,000 times more comfortable than my humble 3-bedroom apartment. And the bed is very sturdy. Hearing this, Cho Carol seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. No wonder you can put in so much effort to give Uncle Yo the safe house. This is not a gift. I just temporarily let him help me take care of it. The highest authority and keys of the safe house are still in my hands. I can take it back at any time if needed. I am thinking of giving Cho Carol a preventive injection. There is already a person at the shelter. Just letting you know in advance. Be prepared as well. As soon as these words were uttered, a scent of vinegar instantly filled the carriage. Cho Carol pouted and asked with a hint of suspicion, "Is it a girl?" I nodded. I looked at Cho Carol's pouting mouth in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, I found it exceptionally cute. Thinking back to when I first met her, she was still the aloof female doctor. Now she has become a jealous little girl vying for attention. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Women are truly mysterious creatures. But don't think too much. I just feel that the house over there is quite big. Just having one more person to help you share the household chores pressure. She's just a tool. But you are the first person I choose to work with me. No one can replace your place in my heart. When Cho Carol said this, her face blushed. She gently leaned on my arm. I know you like me. At this point, I couldn't help but ask myself. Although I didn't expect this female medical PhD to be so easy to coax. But thinking carefully, at least I have never owed Cho Carol anything, so I shouldn't be considered a scumbag. Just then, Cho Carol suddenly exclaimed, "How come it feels like this snowstorm has suddenly become much fiercer? It's even more intense than when the snow disaster first started. I also feel something unusual outside the car." Suddenly, the gaze became serious. This is probably not just a simple heavy snow. Glancing sideways, it seems to be a tornado. The front of the car is completely blocked by the wind and snow. I grip the steering wheel tightly and ponder for a moment. Then I raise my left hand. Instantly open the door to another dimension. Bring the tornado just now into another dimension. Not yet traveled far. A more violent snow tornado is slowly forming. It was only then that I realized. This is not a natural phenomenon at all, but rather an attack from someone with a supernatural ability. And there is a very high probability that it is from the nearby Sioux clan town. I keep telling myself, stay calm. Once you panic at this time, it's all over. This is the first time encountering a hostile supernatural person. After all, it is unclear what the opponent's supernatural ability is. How powerful will their strength be in the end? However, my own supernatural ability is absolute defense. As long as I don't lose my cool, the opponent won't be able to kill me with such precise attacks. It indicates that the other person is definitely nearby. So, the most critical point now. It is necessary to figure out what the other party's capability is. Hold off the attack first. Make the other party reveal their cards. How powerful is ZhangYi's? Another dimension, exactly. Facing the massive snow tornado that hits like a force of nature. I immediately open the dimension gate behind the snow-covered vehicle. In just an instant, the fiercely attacking tornado disappeared in the same spot. Suturali, not far away, had a bewildered look on his face. He was about to overturn his snowmobile. Why did it suddenly disappear? This set of small moves also consumed a considerable amount of Su Chubster's physical strength. His face instantly turned much paler. The two men of the Sioux clan holding clay spears on the side showed fear on their faces. The opponent is so strong. Should we retreat first? Su Chubster said dejectedly. It seems that guy must also be a supernatural ability user. And I have no idea what type of supernatural ability it is. Su Chubster has always been timid and fearful, especially of the unknown. In fear of the unknown abilities, he reluctantly ordered to prepare for retreat. Now he is the treasurer of the village. Su Chubster's orders are like the village chief's orders. And at this moment, inside the snowmobile, I see that the opponent has stopped attacking. I conclude that the other side has no more tricks. Immediately put on tactical goggles and retrieve the assault rifle from another dimension. Soon found 3 figures in the snow. Then, I quickly opened the car door and got out. I madly sprayed gunfire at the snowdrift not far away. Bullets penetrated the snowdrift and instantly pierced a person's thigh. The person fell to the ground and shouted in pain. "Not good! The other side has a sniper rifle!" Su Chubster's pupils suddenly contracted. He turned to look in the direction of my snowmobile. The distance was so far, and the snowstorm was so heavy. How did he manage to hit with such accuracy? After finishing a clip, I pulled out a sniper rifle, ready to harvest. Su Chubster seemed to have sensed the danger as well. Once again, used all his strength to unleash the snow tornado. Seeing this, I also released the snow tornado that was just stored in another dimension. Su Chubster was stunned instantly. He could actually use the same skill as I do. Could he be a copy ninja like Kakashi? At this point, Su Chubster didn't care about his weak body. He knelt down to control more ice and snow to try to block my counterattack. 2 ice and snow storms collided with each other, filling the entire river with snow mist. I didn't have a chance to shoot at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Su Chubster and the other 2 fled in panic. Through this brief skirmish, I have roughly understood the opponent's abilities. It seems that he is not yet proficient in using the supernatural ability. If we catch up at this moment, there is a high probability of being able to kill the opponent. But out of my consistent caution, I won't take action without 100% certainty. I'll let you go this time. After all, it's your territory over there. Who knows if there are any traps or something? Besides, my family Carol is still in the car. There is no need to take risks. After carefully weighing the pros and cons, I put away the sniper rifle, shouting harsh words towards the direction where the 3 people were running away. If you have the guts, don't run. If you want revenge, stay. Feel free to come to Yunkei Estate to find me anytime. I'm not interested in fighting. After venting, I quickly drove away. Shocking. Joe Carroll and Yang Mimi turned out to be cousins. It seems like there is some unresolved conflict between them. Just happened after I drove away the supernatural ability user from Su Clan Town. Turned around and quickly drove to the sanctuary. This battle can be said to be quite fruitful. After all, this is the first time engaging in actual combat with a supernatural person. This also gives me some more insights into the use of supernatural ability. After I go back, I must step up my training. The world has changed. The future undoubtedly belongs to those with supernatural ability. Joe Carroll was still trembling with fear on the side. Your battle just now was too terrifying. The opponent could actually control the wind and snow. Fortunately, you had a gun in your hand. Joe Carroll thought I drove away because I couldn't win. I explained to her. Those guys just now were the ones who were driven away. Someone must have been shot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be worried about you being alone in the car for safety reasons. I would definitely have chased after them and wiped them out. But the commotion caused by the snow tornado just now was too intense. Joe Carroll still looks worried. He shouldn't be seeking revenge on us, right? The other party has the powerful supernatural ability to manipulate ice and snow. What if our residence is destroyed? I just smile faintly at this. That is a shelter built for $1 billion. Ice and snow are nothing to fear. Even if it is truly destroyed, it will not affect my life in the slightest. Moreover, my supernatural ability can bounce off all physical attacks. His attacks are basically ineffective against me. And in the shelter at this moment, Yang Mimi lay on the big bed looking confused. She thought about being the top star in the entertainment industry of Hua Country. But she found herself hidden at home by an unknown minion for a day. I don't know when this day will come to an end. At this moment, I pushed open the door. Yang Mimi suddenly sat up and covered her nice figure with the blanket. Come out for a moment. I will introduce a pen pal to you for you to get to know. Yang Mimi looked puzzled. Pen pal? Is your female pen pal? I looked impatient. Hurry up and get dressed. You'll know when you meet her. according to the order of arrival. You have to call her sister. Yang Mimi looked displeased. What kind of play is this? I'm a top star in what country? In the entertainment industry, a top-tier female star like me should not play the supporting role. But now, I have to bow my head under the same roof. Nevertheless, I cannot lose my momentum. The battle has just begun. Thinking of this, Yang Mimi decided to dress up nicely. She must outdo that woman in revenge. I went back to the first floor without urging them. I understand women's minds. In the lobby on the first floor, Jo Carol also carefully tidied up her makeup. She thought of herself as the original wife. I absolutely cannot lose to you, this mistress. Jo Carol anxiously sat on the sofa. Occasionally, she picked up her makeup bag to touch up her makeup. After a while, the meticulously dressed Yang Mimi finally, slowly walked down the stairs. She just managed to squeeze out a smile as if to greet. The air fell into silence for a moment. The two women stared at each other with wide eyes. Their eyes were filled with a look of surprise, regret, and shame. How could it be you? They both responded in unison. Carol had an angry and indifferent look on her face, while Mimi had an evasive look in her eyes, as if she had done something wrong. I was confused. You two actually know each other. I am a super scumbag. Although I already have a pure and chaste beautiful female doctor. Accidentally got involved with a popular celebrity due to a twist of fate. Actress Yang Mimi got involved, even shamelessly preparing to introduce the two of them to each other, fantasizing about the three of them enjoying harmony together, start a shameless life at the shelter. But I never expected it. Jo Carol and Yang Mimi are actually cousins, and it seems that their relationship is somewhat strained. As soon as they met, Jo Carol had an angry expression on her face and pointed directly at Yang Mimi, speaking bluntly. This woman is my cousin. My mind instantly went blank. What a coincidence. The two women I saved turned out to be cousins. I feel that the atmosphere is not quite right. Yang Mimi shrank back fearfully and hid behind me. Then she pulled me aside and said shyly, ZhangYi, can you please not let my cousin know about our deal? From the attitude of the three people meeting, it is obvious that Yang Mimi has done something wrong and feels a little guilty, while Jo Carol is full of resentment. At this moment, Yang Mimi whispered to me the whole story. It turns out that Yang Mimi's mother and Jo Carol's father are siblings. Both the Cho and Yang families are famous literary families in the holy capital. The Cho family is very strong in the field of medicine. Many members of the family are superstars in the medical field both domestically and internationally. The Yang family also produces many talents in the field of education, with numerous professors and academicians among their ranks. Yang Mimi's grandfather even served as the president of Sinpec University in Hua country. However, the conflicting point lies in Yang Mimi's decision to enter the entertainment industry, becoming an actress, which is against the wishes of the two prestigious families. It is undoubtedly a disgrace to the family's reputation, and precisely because of her stubborn behavior. Let the two families be the laughingstock of the entire upper circle of the holy capital. Even Jo Carol has not escaped being teased over the years for having an actress cousin. Thinking about this makes her very angry. Yang Mimi defended herself, saying, I'm just doing what I like to do. I enjoy the feeling of being surrounded by stars. Is there anything wrong with that? Jo Carol sneered and said in a sarcastic tone, If you were relying on your acting skills based on your talent, then it would be fine. But instead, you are using your good figure to play up suggestive hints and become popular. How is that any different from selling your body? I glanced at Yang Mimi's impressive figure. What Carol said is true. Yang Mimi has actually been feeling guilty all along. She was born into a highly educated family, but now she has become a celebrity famous for her figure. Indeed, she feels that it brings shame to her family. Surprisingly, she even shared her current boyfriend with her cousin. This has made her feel even more ashamed in front of her cousin, just when the atmosphere was extremely awkward. I quickly stepped forward to defuse the situation. Those are all things of the past. In the future, there won't be any young ladies of refined upbringing here with me. There are also no current popular female celebrities. We are going to be comrades in arms, who help each other. Listen to my indisputable tone. Let's make peace on the surface. Next, let's assign tasks to each other. As soon as they heard there was something to do, they all accepted with pleasure. Staying in the house for so long is almost making me sick. I immediately asked Cho Carol to tidy up her room. At this moment, Yang Mimi approached with a sincere expression. ZhangYi, thank you for not disclosing our affairs. Can you continue to help me keep it a secret in the future? After knowing that this is my cousin's boyfriend, Yang Mimi felt a strong sense of guilt. I have no reason to refuse this. Although I have imagined scenes of being embraced on both sides, it seems difficult to achieve now. I agreed to her request so readily. Yang Mimi immediately offered to show off her cooking skills to express gratitude. I am a little surprised. You seem so well-bred. Can you cook? Yang Mimi looked proud. Have you not seen my show? Mimi's tasty. That's all my real cooking skills. Don't think that celebrities are incapable of taking care of themselves. When I'm bored, I like to cook to relieve stress. With that said, she turned and walked towards the kitchen. But as soon as Yang Mimi arrived in the kitchen, she was dumbfounded. The whole kitchen was empty. This is the Rich Prince's kitchen. Where would they possibly prepare ingredients? I have 2 female friends, and they are cousins. Thought they could start a shameless life. But it exploded as soon as they met. Cho Carol was seen pointing at Yang Mimi and cursing at her. She scolded her for disregarding the family reputation and insisting on entering the entertainment industry. Let their 2 families unable to hold their heads up in the high society of the holy capital. The 2 maintained a temporary truce on the surface. But for the sake of winning favor, the 2 sisters are still competing secretly. To prove that she is not just a vase in the entertainment industry, Yang Mimi decided to cook and show off her skills in order to outshine her bookish cousin. But the kitchen was completely empty. At that moment, I suddenly leaned in next to Yang Mimi's ear and breathed out a sigh. She was startled and gave a shiver. Yang Mimi blushed and said shyly, "Didn't we agree that my cousin can't know about our relationship? What are you trying to do? I was just teasing you. I'm here to bring you ingredients." With that, he waved his left hand. A table full of ingredients instantly appeared on the table. Yang Mimi was instantly stunned. What a strange ability. Since the apocalypse, I haven't seen this much food before. And these ingredients look very fresh. They don't seem frozen for a long time. I jokingly patted Yang Mimi's perky butt. Is this enough? In the future, we'll cook at home according to these standards. Yang Mimi suddenly felt a great sense of relief. She originally thought it was just some canned bacon or something. I didn't expect it to be so rich. Soon, a table full of dishes was already prepared. It indeed looked very appetizing. I can't wait to start identifying it. Appreciating the skills of this big star. Seeing cousin Cho Carol, Yang Mimi's face still looks a bit embarrassed. Afraid that my intimate actions in the kitchen were noticed by Carol just now. After tasting it, Carol sniffed disdainfully. Who is going to eat so much salt? It's such a waste of good ingredients. Yang Mimi looked embarrassed. She thought she had been startled by ZhangYi just now. It seems like she didn't handle the seasoning well. Watching the sisters not getting along with each other, I felt secretly happy. I deliberately wanted them to compete and be jealous of each other. So, I also find it enjoyable. I thought if the 2 of them were to form a united front, even if they were to direct their spearhead at me. After all, they are sisters. I couldn't help but feel more cautious in my heart. Thinking of this, I began to act mischievously. I picked up a piece of meat and affectionately placed it at Carol's mouth. Cho Carol also cooperatively opened her mouth. Sure, here is the translation. Sure enough, it's still ZhangYi who feeds deliciously. At the same time, he deliberately glanced at Yang Mimi. It seems to be declaring his own authority. While Yang Mimi kept her head down, focused only on eating. That night, I chose to sleep in Cho Carol's room. Cho Carol looked at me eagerly. Brother ZhangYi, who do you think is better between the 2 of us? I gently stroked Cho Carol's hair. Silly. Of course you are better. You are my precious private doctor. What can the first actor compare to you? I was just play acting with her. Hearing this, Cho Carol smiled and rushed over. I knew that I am the one you love the most. Looking at Cho Carol nestled in my arms. I couldn't help but think, in the apocalypse, is there really such a thing as love? I don't need love. There is no time for love either. Everyone is just taking what they need. Women, They just slowed down my trigger finger. I thought we could have 3 people in the shelter. Start a shameless life together. But a strange phone call broke the original peace. Just when I was practicing shooting in the underground training ground, the phone in my pocket suddenly rang. It startled me instantly. After all, I haven't received any phone calls for many years. People have long been accustomed to making voice calls. But this call surprisingly used a mobile phone dialing tone. Under such apocalyptic circumstances, could it possibly be a scam call? Could it be that someone I know needs to contact me only through a phone call? I have no hesitation. If I casually put the number straight into the blacklist. But I haven't put it in my pocket yet. The phone actually rang again. I picked it up and was dumbfounded. It turned out to be the same number as before. I just blacklisted it. This is too bizarre. Could it be that I made a mistake just now? I suddenly panicked. Words kept coming up in my mind. Do not answer. Do not answer. I hung up the phone again and blacklisted it once more. This time I stared as the number was blacklisted. Then I stared at the screen intently. I thought to myself, now you won't be able to call in. The familiar number rang again. I was completely speechless.